I'm gonna get some chapstick real quick. My lips are dry.
Okay. I could wet them for you. She didn't hear it.
Okay.
Welcome back. You didn't hear what evil thing I said.
Uh-oh. Squints. Let me
Because
bring
you
up
said
chat so chat can tell me.
no, nobody was there. I get away with it because nobody heard. I was just being very bad.
Okay.
I think you were gonna take over reading the next part, right?
I can't remember.
It's
But
been
I can
too
do that.
long. 84 years.
84 years. Alrighty then. Let me just read this page. Da. I don't have time for this. She looked at Makoto and confirmed that his breathing had grown even shallower. I need to hurry. But at that moment, she had no one to turn to for help. Suddenly, Mukuro had an idea. It was true that gaining an ally in this situation was impossible. However, she could still turn one person into her enemy's enemy.
Oh?
Mukuro took a deep breath before she charged at Sakura. Then she immediately fainted and charged at a different girl. Toko, who had been cowering in fear from the battle between Sakura and Mukuro in the corner of the gym.
Ah.
This is bad. Sakura was caught off guard and tried to run after her, but Mukuro was one step ahead and reached Toko first. Huh? Why me? I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. Mukuro jabbed Toko in her solar plexus and she fell into her arms. Taka and Aoi yelled out in shock. This is bad. She plans to use Toko as a hostage. Toko! In contrast to their shocked faces, Byakuya just snickered and coldly remarked, You fool. Do you really think we care if you take someone we just met a few days ago as your hostage?
Yes, the Byakuya voice.
Mukuro just softly glanced at Byakuya and replied, You didn't meet her a few days ago. What did you say? You met her 2 years ago.
Oh, she's gonna just totally ruin everybody's mentality right now.
Byakuya scowled. Mukuro ignored him and held her bloody arm in front of Toko's face. And then she yelled into her ears, Wake up, genocide Jack! Nani? It seemed so random and out of place. Why would Mukuro mention the name of a notorious serial killer right now? The students looked at each other with confusion, when suddenly... Coco, who had been groaning in pain, suddenly kicked off of the floor of the gym with renewed vigor. She leapt into the air much higher than any normal human should have been able to. While hovering several meters in the mid-air, Toko trolled faster than a professional figure skater.
Okay.
This caused her skirt to flutter, revealing multiple pairs of sparkling scissors.
Oh my.
Countless tally marks were scratched into her legs, like a kill count carved into a fighter jet. If not for this situation, Toko's glamorous jumps and spins would have been a sight to behold.
Man, too bad her girlfriend's not here.
Right? The girl formerly known as Toko Fukawa cackled wildly, her red eyes sparkling as her absurdly long tongue flopped out of her mouth. You called for me, and so I appear. I've got a murder IOU for YOU. Toko? The situation had changed so drastically that even Sayaka, who was silent up until now, spoke up. Hey, hey! You, flash in the pan! Don't treat Genocide Jack like that depressing little four eyes! That dirty girl doesn't bathe herself at all, so I gotta put in 5 times the effort to rub myself down in the shower.
Oh, well, at least you take a shower.
Eek! Toko's sudden change in personality sent the students clamoring amongst themselves. Hey, Leon yelled. What the hell does that mean? Monokuma just shook his head. There are some things even I don't understand. The students continued to panic at the strange turn of events. Toko, now calling herself Genocide Jack, took out a set of scissors from under her skirt and snipped them with glee as she looked around the gym. Huh? Man, it's been a while since I got to stretch my legs. So what were you guys gonna do here at the gym while I was snoozing away? Have an orgy?
Oh.
I understand. I totally understand. You guys need me to cut up your clothes so you can feel even naughtier.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. Why the hell would I do that for you, dumbasses? I only do that for Komaru.
Mm-hmm.
My scissors are only meant for cutting the supple, tender flesh of adorable boys. Genocide Jack was causing a ruckus, but when she saw Makoto laying on the floor, she tilted her head once again. Huh, Big Mac, you're like totally about to die. What's the deal? Did the world fill you with so much despair that you all came here to commit mass suicide? That's so hot. Why are you starting without me?
Oh my gosh.
Toko, cried Aoi, get a hold of yourself! Genocide Jack ignored Aoi and let her emotions run unchecked, jumping and dancing with excitement as she held her scissors. Ah, jeez, I wanted to stab Big Mac side myself. This spot right here, where the ribs are kinda showing already. He's not even screaming right now, though. What does that mean? Oh well, maybe I can just get used to this feeling of alienation instead. I have no idea what's going on anymore, shouted Yasuhiro. This is all the aliens' fault.
Yeah.
Yasuhiro buried his head into his arms, but no one was paying attention to him.
Gosh, I really want Gingrams to play more of this stuff just so that they can react to more of the crazy stuff. But then again, I feel like Aaron really did not like it very much.
No, he did not. The students' attention was entirely focused on Genocide Jack. Using that to her advantage, Mukuro began sneaking over to Makoto. As she cautiously picked him up, she confirmed that his body temperature was starting to decrease. I can still make it there in time. Though she was carrying another person, Mukuro managed to soften the sound of her footsteps as she ran for the gym's doors. By the time the students heard Mukuro open the door, it was already too late. She had managed to escape the gym with Makoto.
Yes, save your boyfriend.
However, not everyone was unaware of what Mukuro was doing. Monokuma saw her movements out of the corner of his eye, but chose not to tell the students. And one other person, Hiyoko Kirigiri. She saw Mukuro carry Makoto away, but did not inform the others as she watched them leave in silence. As everyone wrestled with their own personal thoughts and speculations, Hope's Peak Academy began walking a path towards a completely different chaos. With Makoto on her back, Mukuro took several trophies from the gym entrance hall, and after passing through the door leading to the hallway, she jammed the trophies through the door handles. Though Sakura could easily destroy these makeshift locks, they would buy Mukuro a few extra seconds. And Mukuro started running to the nurse's office, the place she last spoke to Makoto. Everything necessary for performing first aid could be found there. Her little sister was her enemy. Her fellow ultimate students were her enemy. Her only ally right now was Makoto, who was on the verge of death. Mukuro knew that even she wasn't her own ally right now. Amidst all this chaos, amidst her sister's betrayal and nearly being killed, she believed. She believed she was the only one who truly understood her little sister. That's why she felt like she had to protect her.
Ugh, why?
That's right. You didn't do anything wrong, Junko. You just wanted to feel despair, that's all. Right? Because you love me. That's why you wanted to kill me. You were just trying to feel despair, right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry I failed to bring you despair. But at the same time, she wondered if she saves Makoto and betrays her sister by disrupting her plan, wouldn't that fill her with an even stronger despair? Wouldn't that make her happy? But betray Junko? What should I do? Mukuro closed her eyes and listened to Makoto's weak breaths. What should I do, Makoto? On a battlefield, where all you need to do is kill and survive, Mukuro was invincible. She could suppress all her emotions and fully immerse herself in becoming a perfect killing machine. But on this twisted battlefield of daily high school life, she could no longer keep her emotions in check, especially around her little sister.
Hello, Serge. Welcome to the stream. Who's the hooded girl with the butterfly wings? That is Coco's cute little avatar.
Hello, Serge. Thank you for coming. Mukuro, the ultimate soldier, was beginning to question being ultimate despair. The impulses of the normal high school girl inside her were starting to affect her state of mind. Even so, the poor girl continued to run through the dark hallways, clinging to this conflict within herself. He was now walking along a narrow, hair-thin path.
I brought waifu with me. My heart. Yes, the waifu is here. Well, not physically here, but you know what I mean.
One day we will be physically together again.
Yes.
And when we stream, I won't be wasted.
Or maybe I will be next time.
Good, yes.
I have an alcoholic beverage or something beforehand.
A path between the hope of Makoto Naegi and the despair of Junko Enoshima. Meanwhile, everyone still in the gym was left in a state of complete confusion. Toko was famous for being a prolific author, but even though she came across as unsociable and depressing, her mind-blowing transformation seemed to have just tossed all that aside. Toko is Genocide Jack? Sayaka trembled with fear as Jack tilted her head and stuck out her long tongue. What's with this reception, you guys? You guys didn't know who I was. Have I been found out? Or have you known all along? And why was the sullen samurai dressed like that? That outfit didn't look good on her at all. The sullen samurai was probably referring to Mukuro, which means Toko already knew Mukuro in advance. Confronted by that shocking truth, the students had no idea where to begin talking. So many things were clearly wrong by this point.
Is Genocide Jack gonna save the day by being like, oh yeah, we all totally knew each other? You know,
Probably.
That kind of
stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
But there were a few students, such as Byakuya and Kyoko, who opted to remain calm and observe the situation. Alright, someone better spill it. Who gave Makoto an extra mouth to feed?
Oh, wow.
I don't care if you want to stab him or slice him. I just can't forgive whoever put that ugly-ass hole in Big Mac's side.
Oh, she cares, I guess.
Maybe. Toko, no, Genocide Jack, spun her scissors in her hands. As she spoke, her emotions and facial expressions constantly changed. Even without the threat of her sisters? What sisters? Even without the threat of her scissors, she exuded an aura of danger that made her unapproachable.
I'm gonna say something horrible, but
Uh-oh.
like we should have known. I mean, the foreshadowing was there all along. The fact that she uses scissors meant that she's a lesbian. And that she only attacks boys. Like, come on.
The symbolism was there all along.
Yes!
The flank steak of a young boy like Macaroons is like a blue bird that pops out of a golden egg. All right.
Macaroon,
Sure.
okay.
If you would have just let me handle it, I would have killed him so good that even Teal and Mile Teal would be eager to die.
I never knew how to pronounce those, but they're from a famous story about birds and being in a cage. And once you finally play the Zero Escape series, you will know all about it.
Alrighty.
Mm-hmm.
But poor Macutie's heart and soul have been stomped out by such a sloppy kill.
Macutie. Oh my god.
That actually sounds pretty exciting too. But I decline. Toko, you're not making any sense, screamed Aoi. What in the world happened to you? Genocide Jack answered by pointing her sisters at Aoi. Again, why do I keep doing this? Scissors at Aoi. What happened to me? I got bored, that's what. That sourpuss locked me up a few days ago, but when she went unconscious, I thought I'd finally get to do my thing. But I woke up for all this. My cutie's soaked with blood, and I've got no clue what's going on. It's so damn confusing. All I can do is laugh. No one seemed to be able to get a straight answer out of Jack, so Ifumi made a timid remark. I've dealt with girls like this in my 2D dating games, but this doesn't even compare. It's like there's an SSS difficulty level to clear her.
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe you even think about her as someone worth clearing, mumbled Leon. It was clear that things were going nowhere. And, as if she were responding to everyone else's expectations, Sakura stepped forward. She might be in the throes of confusion. I should try to restrain her for now. As soon as she heard that, Genocide Jack stopped moving, stuck out her lizard-like tongue, and grinned wickedly. Oh, what's up? Are you really gonna fight me, Battle Ogre? Too bad. My lovely scissors are only for cutting through adorable boys. Women should just stay home. I won't taint my scissors with your filthy blood. Replied Sakura. It seems my words are useless on you. Sakura entered a fighter stance, determined to restrain Jack. But Jack knew she couldn't win in a fair fight, and adopted a strange stance of her own. In a normal fight, Jack would obviously lose to the ogre, but if Jack focused just on dodging attacks, the outcome of the fight would be hard to foresee. Of course, Genocide Jack's physical abilities were only obvious to a few of the students in the first place. The two women exchanged hostile stares as the other students gulped nervously and watched. Except for one person. Kyoko was watching something else. She was watching Monokuma, who was in the corner of the gym, unmoving as white noise emitted from his speakers. He had stopped moving the moment everyone's attention focused on Sakura and Toko. It's possible that Madurai's hacking had been disrupted, but an infinite number of other possibilities were also swirling around in Kyoko's mind. She brushed back her hair with a gloved hand and continued to watch.
Okay, so this came up on my Insta feed when you get paid bi-weekly. Week 1, you're eating surf and turf. Week 2, ice soup.
Right? Yep.
Ice soup, my gosh.
Though she couldn't fully remember her talent, the actions she was taking right now were fueled by pure instinct. The strange situations that kept occurring in front of her were shaking her to her very core. Her mind works diligently to scoop up countless amounts of information from a vast sea of memories. And as they were synchronizing with the synapses firing in her brain, Sakura and Toko kicked off the ground at the same time. An intense impact rang throughout the gym. Thanks to the heated battle that was unfolded in the gymnasium, Mukuro Ikusaba was able to buy more time than she had imagined. As soon as she entered the nurse's office, she rummaged around for medical supplies and did what she could to stop the bleeding. Though still quite shallow, Makoto's breathing slowly stabilized. Mukuro let out a little sigh of relief.
I think he needs like a blood transfusion though, because he lost a lot.
Yeah. However, even though she was somehow able to stop the bleeding, she wasn't out of the woods just yet. Miraculously enough, it seemed like none of Makoto's major arteries or organs were damaged. Was this perhaps thanks to ultimate luck? Or maybe he actually wasn't all that lucky. After all, the only sort of medical treatment he could hope for was partial at best. Mukuro couldn't decide. If only I could do a blood transfusion like Bink said.
Yep.
The nurse's office should have had several blood packs for transfusions. Mukuro suspected that Makoto's blood type might be written in his e-handbook, but as she reached over to search his pockets... I see you're reaching for a sleeping boy's clothes. What in the world is about to happen next? Adults can keep playing, but you kids better press the B button, okay? Mukuro turned towards the familiar voice and saw Monokuma standing before her. You're all alone with Makoto right now. Just think of me as a cute wild animal and let your lust lead the way.
My goodness.
As the headmaster, I must prevent any illicit sexual relationships, but physical education classes are just fine, missy. Though he looked just like the one that was at the gym, it was clearly a different Monokuma. Multiple Monokumas had been placed throughout the entire academy, so it wasn't a stretch for him to suddenly appear out of nowhere. Regardless, the same person was controlling all of them. Mukuro had been wary of Monokuma attacking her while she was treating Makoto's wounds. But his appearance at this particular moment seemed to take her by surprise. Junko? Asked Mukuro cautiously. Monokuma tilted his head, along with his entire upper body inquisitively. Junko? Who's that? Junko? I've never heard of that country before. No more jokes. Answer me, Junko. You were planning to kill me earlier, right? Junko this, Junko that. What's your problem? I'm telling you, I'm Monokuma. You must be a big disappointment if you can't even remember something like that. You're not just a disappointment as a person, you're a disappointment as a sister, too. You're too skinny and your brain is nothing but muscles, and your personality is just bearable. I'm sorry, said Mukuro. She didn't need to apologize, but hearing her little sister call her a disappointment yet again was enough to make the ultimate soldier recoil. Monokuma ignored her and her current situation, climbed on top of Makoto's barely breathing body, and began poking his cheeks.
Leave them alone, dang it.
So, what are you gonna do with Makoto now? I'm really interested in human mating habits, you know? What are you? Asked Mukuro before trailing off. Monokuma lowered his tone and began whispering into her ear. Makoto's a pretty nice guy, huh? He even sacrificed himself to save you. He's so generous that it's actually hopeless. He's not dead yet, insisted Mukuro. Despite her firm tone, she couldn't hide the fear lingering in her voice. That's the most disappointing thing about you. You can't even say, I won't let him die. I won't let him die, Junko. Mukuro could barely get a word in as Monokuma erupted into poo-hoo-hoos and continued to torment her.
Oh, hi, Sign. I was wondering what was going on in chat.
Oh? What happened?
I think she hit a button on accident, put it in slow mode or something.
Oh, okay. Do you want to switch off now, since we're at the 30-minute mark?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that. Well, welcome, Sign. Hope you're doing well today.
Welcome.
As if you could do that. Too bad, no regrets. See ya tomorrow. Wahahaha! Is this all because Makoto was the first person to smile at you? You, a disappointing, depressing, unladylike, inhuman killing machine! Despite denying that he was Junko, Monokuma began speaking at length about Mukuro's past. This contradiction was very much like Junko, and Mukuro was so shaken that all she could do was watch the bear prattle on and on. Only the fit survive in this world. The only thing that kind-hearted people can do is die, you know. As proof, you're gonna watch Makoto die really soon. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo. He won't die. Mukuro's tone of voice had become irregular ever since she took off her Junko wig. Aside from her conversation with Makoto, everything she said as Junko was from a script that her sister had written. No, you were fine, Sign. No, I think whatever Surge had said is still there, so. But now there was no script from Mukuro to rely on anymore. Mukuro was treating Monokuma like she would treat her own sister. If the other students saw her acting so weak, they'd never believe she was the same person who fought Sakura in the gym. And not just that, if anyone from her mercenary past could see her now, her stark change in attitude might make them think she was someone else entirely. Monokuma continued to rail against Mukuro. Nope, he's gonna die. I know it's sad, but you just have to face the facts. Monokuma wriggled his limbs and danced around, then pointed right at Mukuro's face. Because Makoto is going to die by your hands. Huh? Infighting among the terrorists. The big bad terrorist silences the weak-willed Makoto before he can leak any information. Doesn't that happen all the time? In the end, all the desperate things you said in the gym turned out to be lies you told just to escape. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Mukuro frowned at Monokuma. You can't do that, Junko. I won't let you do that. As she blurted out those words in a trembling voice, Mukuro was gripped with confusion about what she had just said. Am I defying Junko right now? Why? It was a strange feeling. To Mukuro, it was like she was standing on the ledge of a tall building and imagining what would happen if she jumped. A destructive feeling, akin to holding a friend's baby and wondering what would happen if you tripped and fell. Gosh, that's a big fear of mine. Holding somebody else's baby, I'm always like,
Right.
Like, I like to do it if I'm sitting down. That way I feel like, less nervous about it. Before she knew it, fear and anxiety had suddenly taken control of Mukuro's heart. As a member of Fenrir, and as ultimate despair, Mukuro had killed innumerable people. She had handled live grenades before. She had descended from the sky in a parachute as anti-aircraft weaponry fired all around her. Her heart never wavered on the battlefield, but now it felt like it could collapse at any second. Monokuma, however, was as stable as a tree, and slightly tilted his head to the side. Huh? Weren't you listening to my story? I'm not the one who's gonna kill Makoto. You are. What are you saying, Junko? Monokuma began giving a strange explanation to a very confused Mukuro. Do you know what the suspension bridge effect really means? It means you push the person you love off a bridge and they'll be yours for eternity. What?
Hi, honey.
Remind me to never meet Coco on a bridge, y'all. I mean, I know we really love Bridge to the Turnabout, but we really don't want to be reenacting all that.
Aww.
Especially the frickin' pendulum. I haven't heard that at all. Life doesn't always follow what your textbooks say. It's sad, but that's what love is. It sounds very yandere. Yeah? His words made no sense, and Mukuro couldn't think of anything to say as she stood there, dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Monokuma continued his little speech, intentionally saying things meant to antagonize Mukuro. Basically, this is your big chance, you know. If you kill Makoto right here and now, nobody will ever take him away from you again. Oh yeah, definitely yandere. Makoto Naegi, dead by dawn. The last name he ever spoke was Mukuro Ikusaba. The last person he ever smiled at was Mukuro Ikusaba. Doesn't that sound wonderful? There was a certain appeal to Monokuma's twisted suggestion, and Mukuro found herself unsure of her own judgment. Oh no. Now we see how easily she's brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
This is wrong. It has to be wrong. But it's really Junko saying all this. So doesn't that mean it's right? No, this isn't Junko. It's Monokuma. Monokuma, 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 Monokuma.
Mm.
And are you sure?
Interesting.
What was that?
No, just interesting how she's now trying to create a distinction between Monokuma and Junko.
Yeah. And are you sure you want to help Makoto? Once he gets better, he's gonna know everything. He'll know what you did to your classmates. I can't believe you would actually erase your friends' memories of their time together and force them to kill each other. Makoto might get mad at you and say, our real enemy isn't the bear, it's her. Do you really want him to blame you for this? I... Mukuro's face turned pale. Or are you going to kill the others? If everyone except you and Makoto dies, you'll be able to spend the rest of your school life together. We can't hold a class trial with only 2 people. It might be a good idea for you both to live the rest of your lives in this academy forever. No, that's wrong. And what are you gonna do if his memories return? It's not like you were dating Makoto or anything. You were just watching him from afar the whole time. Man, you're so shy. You can shoot people's hearts and brains no problem, but you can't even woo some stupid boy into liking you. How rude. Do you want to know who Makoto had a crush on before his memories were taken away? I mean, it was freaking obvious it was Sayaka.
Wait, shit, I thought it was Sakura.
Oh, it should have been. Makoto, you need your taste changed.
Everyone crushes on Sakura. That's
Yes.
how it should be.
I think she's one of those that everyone crushes on, but is too timid to ever approach her, so she thinks no one likes her until Aoi finally's like, screw that, I like you.
Aw, that's adorable.
They're super cute. What if Makoto is an incubus in disguise? Oh my.
What?
I mean, he.
Well, that boy would be fucking near death all the time since he can't make a move.
Right? But you gotta say, all these Danganronpa protagonists pretty much are, because they're like attracting these harems so easily.
It's true.
Mukuro trembled as Monokuma continued pressing the issue, gradually loosening the screws, keeping her heart secure. So Mukuro chose to pretend she didn't hear anything at all. All emotion vanished from her face and she looked silently for Makoto's e-handbook. If you're looking for his blood type, it's not written in the handbook. Mukuro's face turned pale. Within 5 seconds, her plan to ignore Monokuma had already failed. But since your headmaster is made up of 50% kindness, I'll tell you anyway. Makoto's blood type is B. Don't know if you can trust that.
Right? I was just gonna say, not sure if we should, eh.
We don't have to go into any further detail. I think that's fine, Sign. As soon as she heard him say that, all the anxiety, horror, hostility, malice, and dread churning within Mukuro had completely vanished. Thank you, Junko. No, don't trust her. Mukuro's eyes sparkled without a hint of suspicion. So she turned her back to Monokuma without a hint of suspicion. Oh no. And walked toward the refrigerator containing the blood packs. Fresh blood packs should have been prepared before the plan took effect. They'll last in cold storage for 21 days. They should still be good. Despite her emotionless face, Mukuro let herself feel a small amount of satisfaction as she took a blood pack from the refrigerator. As Monokuma watched her, his normally emotionless eyes twitched ever so slightly. If a third party could see his face right now, or even if the other students could see his face right now, they'd wonder, is Monokuma surprised? So here's the thing. She should know. I'm kind of frustrated right now if she has like medic training or whatever she said.
You should, yeah.
She should know that it doesn't matter what his blood type is if as long as she used O type, because that's the universal donor. So if she just used O, he would be fine, no matter what his type is. The only issue might be, I'm trying to remember. No, I think that's only if you're pregnant. I was trying to remember if it matters if you're like negative or positive. But I think O should be fine. So it's frustrating that she didn't just go for that instead of worrying about his actual type. Oh, and Sign says his blood type is A, of course. Is Monokuma surprised? That's right. They'd have the same shocked look on their faces as if they were seeing Monokuma for the first time. At that moment, a whisper crept out of Monokuma's emotionless face. There should be a limit to how disappointing you can be.
Damn.
Wow. It was far quieter than a mosquito's wings. Even with her battle-hardened hearing, Mukuro couldn't hear what he said. Monokuma shook his head, and the voice returned to normal. It's not like I care that you, the ultimate despair, has hope in anything. It's not like I expected much from you to begin with, so this'll at least help me feel despair. But seriously, you disappoint me. Just so you know, despair and disappointment are completely different things, okay? They're as different as bears and pandas. What are you? Mukuro's body started to shake as she turned back to look at Monokuma. He hadn't started talking any differently than usual. Junko hadn't turned off the voice modulator and started talking in her real voice or anything. And yet Mukuro was utterly terrified. She was terrified on instinct. Not as a soldier. Half the reason she was terrified was because of her instincts as the ultimate despair. And the other half was because she was Junko's older sister. Even though Monokuma, her instincts were telling her that Junko, even through Monokuma, her instincts were telling her that Junko was annoyed with her. Junko? Why are you annoyed? Is it because I betrayed you? Or is it because I didn't die like you wanted me to? Ah, sulked Monokuma. I'm beyond annoyed. I'm really, really angry, and I'm really, really disappointed right now. I'm so pissed I could take a rage nap right now. Monokuma's anger didn't seem any different from his usual anger toward the students, but Mukuro could instinctively sense another emotion mixed with it.
Jealousy?
Maybe because she saw how much she cares for Makoto.
That, and also just that she has the ability to care at all.
Yeah. Right now, she could feel that Junko was feeling hopeless disappointment. It's normal for someone who's disappointed to lose hope, but for ultimate despair, disappointment means something else entirely. To them, disappointment was tantamount to losing despair itself. Mukuro was a member of ultimate despair. At her sister's behest, Mukuro had soiled her hands many times in order to fill the world with despair. Despite her pride toward being a member of ultimate despair, there was a clear difference between Mukuro and her sister. Junko Enoshima was despair incarnate. She was born in despair, letting it infect other people's hope so it could rot them from the inside out, twisting them into her own image. For Junko, feeling hope was its own despair. Creating despair in others created despair in herself, which caused her to feel both intense pain and intense bliss. Junko had walked the fracture created from the conflict between pleasure and penance all her life. Eventually, the fracture would widen until it swallowed the world and tore it in half. But Mukuro, on the other hand, had neither hope nor despair for the world. At least not when she was a member of Fenrir. Ever since she was a child, Mukuro believed she was meant to spread despair because of her sister. She didn't harbor any ill will toward the world. She simply accepted she was meant to spread despair and chose to walk the same path as her sister. The doubt she felt was only a recent development. When Junko told her about the plan, when she watched the world burn at the hands of terrorists wearing Monokuma masks, she never wavered once. However, as soon as she heard about her sister's plan to make their classmates kill each other, Makoto included, a strange feeling began to stir within her. What started as a seed of doubt soon grew into a thorny vine ensnaring Mukuro's feet. As soon as she disguised herself as Junko and finished meeting the other students, as soon as she had confirmed that everyone's memories had been completely taken away, that vine began tightening around Mukuro's heart. They're gone. Junko's the only one who knows about me now. That's it. But that's no problem. It's just like old times. Things will never go back to how they used to be, but that's fine. This should be fine. She had relinquished the past 2 years she had spent with her friends so she could betray them and deliver death and despair onto them. Though her heart ached, Mukuro was beyond feeling guilt or remorse for her actions. But the question, why does my heart ache like this, still remained unanswered. Perhaps that's why she spent so much time talking to Makoto when he was in the nurse's office. And when Makoto gave her that one particular answer, something changed inside her. In return, I promise that if I do decide to kill someone, it won't be you. The words Mukuro blurted out to Makoto weren't improvised to further her role as Junko. It was an honest sentiment from the bottom of her heart. She was even planning to ask Junko herself if Makoto could somehow be spared from her plan. Over the past 2 years, Mukuro's interests had been slowly shifting away from her sister and toward the world itself. By extension, her interests also included Makoto, the first person to ever smile at her and make her feel connected to the world. He was like a sapling of pure honesty that had taken root in Mukuro's heart. Dang, that's cute. But also
Yeah.
sad. But by the time she realized that, the tree had already rotted. As Mukuro struggled to understand the situation, Monokuma let out a sigh and said, I wonder which part of you is a wolf, anyway. You're just a dog that blindly follows Junko's orders. What does the tattoo on your hand even mean? Are you just a bitch who's pledged her loyalty to her owner? Damn. I bet Toko would say that. I'm positive. Monokuma continued to talk as Mukuro stood in confusion. I was obviously lying when I said Makoto's blood type is B. What? Cried Mukuro. You lied? Junko. A normal person would have been suspicious. I never thought you'd actually believe me just now. I must have misplaced my eyes because I totally did not see that coming. Not even with my ability to predict the future. How shocking. Geez, I'm about to start crying my eyes out like some sort of robot cat. Seriously. It's going to be okay, Junko, said Mukuro. I know our plan kind of fell apart, but I'm still on your side. Are you feeling all right? Because I'll do anything. Snap! Oh. A harsh sound came from Monokuma's mouth. That sound was one of my circuits overloading. It's been so long since I felt this angry. Meet me on the roof of the school. I'll smash out all your baby teeth. Monokuma started shadowboxing in front of Mukuro, who remained frozen in place, clutching a blood pack in her hand. She still looked confused, and Monokuma threw up his arms in frustration. You're so disappointing, I can't even predict it anymore. Roar! A threatening roar burst from Monokuma's mouth as he leapt at Mukuro with his sharp claws extended. At that moment, her face became completely emotionless. It was not a conscious action. The defensive instinct she honed during her time with Fenrir temporarily suppressed her emotions as she countered Monokuma's attack. Mukuro grabbed a nearby IV stand and used it to parry Monokuma's claws. However, Monokuma's claws seemed to be made with a special alloy and easily sliced the bar in half diagonally. But instead of following up his attack, Monokuma continued talking to Mukuro. I guess you're not much of a disappointment when it comes to fighting. In fact, if you were so pathetic that you died from that single attack, that would have been interesting in its own way. But right now, you're just incompetent at everything. I'm sorry, said Mukuro. I couldn't help blocking your attack. But there's no way I can fight you, Junko. After all, I'm all you have. I'm the only one who understands you at all. Mukuro's words were riddled with endless dismay. The contrast between her usual stoic self and the way she was acting now was so stark, people might assume she had multiple personalities. However, Monokuma just quietly stared at her. He was perfectly still, as if all his functions had powered down completely. But Mukuro continued to share her feelings. There's no way I can just leave you alone. And then Monokuma broke his silence, but... At that moment, a monitor in the nurse's office lit up, displaying a girl's face, Junko Enoshima. Serge says, remember that one astronaut who chased his crewmates around in a gorilla suit? No, I never heard of that.
That sounds like a copy sketch.
Huh. At the same time, a voice completely unlike Monokuma's began to play from the speakers. Hey, Mukuro. Junko. It had been several days since Mukuro had heard her sister's real voice. Though her face remained emotionless, excitement sparkled in her eyes. However, that shine immediately dulled. I'm grateful to you, Mukuro. I mean it. Junko's voice emanating from the speakers sounded very gentle and kind. Uh-huh. Junko? I'm really sorry. I said so many mean things to you. I even tried to kill you earlier, and I was about to make you do something horrible just now. Even though I know about your feelings towards Makoto. I don't... You don't have to force yourself. Even if you didn't notice, it was totally obvious to anyone looking at you. You never cared about the class photos, but when Makoto said he was going to take one, you made sure you were facing the camera. And then Junko Enoshima, the ultimate despair, flashed a smile. A pure, sweet smile. On the monitor, she looked like a normal high school girl, teasing her older sister. And yet Mukuro could feel despair and anxiety encasing themselves around her. I always thought you should have tried hard to take pictures with Makoto. But I guess that's what makes you so disappointing. Still, even though you're disappointing and annoying, I still love you. Mukuro trembled upon hearing those words. I love you. That's all she ever wanted to hear her sister say. Mukuro believed. No matter what Junko said, she believed she really loved her. She believed she was the only one who could truly understand the despair known as Junko Enoshima. She was naive. As soon as she heard Junko say, I love you, Mukuro realized she never completely understood her sister. It was only at this moment that Mukuro finally understood her sister's feelings. Junko's words right now were kind. Perhaps that kindness was completely honest. The words I love you might have been true as well. However... Alright, Coco. You take it away.
For Junko Enoshima, this was her way of saying goodbye. She was severing the ties between them. It was painfully clear to Mukuro. And then, before she could even say anything, the girl in the monitor made a remark that cut Mukuro to the bone. I'm sure someday you'll make your dreams come true. Ultimate despairs never talked to each other like this. A simple truth stabbed into Mukuro's heart. Junko had no further use for her. Her own sister was parting ways with her. Mukuro had dedicated over 10 years of her life to the cause of ultimate despair, and at this moment, it all counted for nothing. But those years no longer mattered to Mukuro. Her sister's rejection was more than enough to send her into the depths of despair. That's why Mukuro, even now, clung to a small sliver of hope. Meanwhile, Junko was still on the monitor. Yeah, right. Did you really think I'd say something that nice? You're so annoying. Can't you just hurry up and disappear already? Mukuro hoped Junko would say something like that. She'd hoped that she'd start verbally abusing her again, her call her useless and incompetent. Mukuro was no masochist, but she'd prefer to be showered with bullets and contempt than endure this kind of emotional pain. But I love you, Mukuro. Bye-bye. The monitor went black, leaving Mukuro to process the horrible goodbye she'd just received. As if on cue, Monokuma started moving again. Isn't family love so nice? By the way, did you know that in about half of all murder cases, the killer is a family member? Monokuma spoke in his usual tone of voice. But it was unclear if his words were getting through to Mukuro. Mukuro let the blood pack in her hand fall to the floor and tighten her grip on the iron bar she was still holding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Junko, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. She mumbled quietly, as if she were chanting a spell, and walked past the blood pack on the floor to Makoto's bedside, with the iron bar in her hands. I'll do it properly.
No.
I'll make sure I do it. So... Oh? Said Monokuma, perking up. What are you gonna properly do to Makoto with that big, thick karate?
Oh my. Oh, okay.
Are you gonna do him? Or are you gonna do him in? Either way, I'm starting to feel some heart-throbbing excitement.
Oh my gosh.
Mukuro looked down like he had been completely broken. Monokuma walked closer to her with eager anticipation. Suddenly, Monokuma's body silently floated into the air.
What? Since when did that even happen?
Huh? With no expression on his face, Monokuma tried to see what had just happened to him. And in the blink of an eye, an iron bar ripped through his body. Oh, okay.
Huh.
The tip of the bar, which had been cut diagonally earlier into a sharp point, went straight through Monokuma and stabbed into a surveillance camera. The lens was completely destroyed, and the camera shot out sparks as it broke down. The iron bar was still stabbed into the surveillance camera as Monokuma dangled from the other end. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but only static came out. A few seconds later, his functions came to a complete stop. Without making a sound at all, Mukuro had kicked Monokuma into the air.
Oh, so that's how he ended up in midair. Okay.
As soon as Monokuma's power source and his bomb circuit had perfectly aligned with the surveillance camera in the nurse's office, Mukuro plunged the iron bar into all three of them. No human has the skills to utilize such a technique. Not even in Ultimate. All the hesitation within Mukuro had vanished. Her eyes sparkled like a panther stalking its prey at night. A tense aura surrounded Mukuro, even more so than when she fought Sakura earlier. Ignoring Monokuma's lifeless form, she looked at Makoto as he breathed softly and remembered her sister's parting words. So this is despair, she mumbled to herself. I'm so sorry, Junko. I never really understood what despair was. She spoke without emotion, like a machine. But it's going to be all right now. I finally understand. Hitting within her, passions began to stir. So, I'll make sure I make you happy, Junko. I'll make sure I fill you with despair. I'll save Makoto. I'll make sure the others don't die. I'll let them escape from this place. I'll deal with the people on the outside, too. You invested so much time and killed so many people for the sake of this plan. And I'll destroy every last remnant of it. For you. This was not an act of vengeance towards the sister who had abandoned her. This was an act of mercy.
Oh, sign.
Stuck between the ultimate despair and the hope she gained from Makoto, Mukuro was being refined into something that was unlike despair or hope. Maybe she might actually resemble a real human being for once in this goddamn series.
Right?
And she had no way of knowing where her path would lead.
Basically, sign, Junko screwed up by cutting ties with her sister and breaking her heart. So now her sister's gonna do the right thing and put a stop to everything Junko has been trying to do.
Over 10 minutes had passed. The sound of the students leaving the gym and making their way to the nurse's office rang throughout the hall. Genocide Jack had continued to dodge Sakura's attack with her tricky movements. But when Byakuya blurted out, "Enough already, you irritating pervert!" Genocide Jack stopped in her tracks. Oh, my. Getting chewed out by a bespectacled Byakuya is making my masochistic side get all tingly. They say the line between sadism and masochism is paper thin, but they say the line between sadism and masochism is paper thin, but in my case it's more like a Venn diagram. Words can't explain these hot waves of passion squirming from the top of my head to the tips of my toes.
You.
As she rambled incoherently about Byakuya, the other students tied her up with a microphone cable from the gym and locked her in her room.
Oh my gosh.
Half the students stayed behind to keep an eye on her, while the rest left to search the grounds of the school. As soon as the door to the nurse's office opened, Kyoko saw a non-functioning Monokuma with a hole in its chest and the remains of a surveillance camera. It wasn't just in the nurse's office, though. On their way here, the students had seen several destroyed surveillance cameras and scattered Monokuma bodies.
Damn, she's been busy.
Mm-hmm. This was a clear violation of school regulations, but if Mukuro was allied with Monokuma, those regulations wouldn't apply to her anyway. The Monokuma inside the gym was no longer moving, and the students had lost contact with the hacker, Bashiki Madarai. So the students assumed that Madarai had taken control of a different Monokuma and went after Mukuro on his own. With that in mind, Kyoko turned and looked inside the nurse's office again. It was unusually quiet. The beds were empty, but Kyoko could see from the bloodstains that someone had been resting there recently. "Looks like they're already gone," Mondo remarked, but he was about to leave. But as he was about to leave, Kyoko spoke up behind him. "I'm going to stay here with Chihiro and search for clues." "Huh?" asked Chihiro, her timid eyes widening. "Clues?" Kyoko continued to speak in a calm tone of voice. "Yes, there may be some clues in these Monokuma remains. I figured you would be the best candidate for investigating machinery." Sakura spoke up. "But isn't that dangerous?" Since Sakura could clearly hold her own in a fight with Mukuro, she had joined the other students in searching the school grounds. Kyoko shook her head and replied, "I'm sorry to say this, but if things get out of hand, Chihiro and I will just be in your way. I think it's better if we search for clues here instead of doing nothing. Besides, we might be able to use Monokuma's parts to detect any radio broadcasts from the outside world." You certainly have a point. Understood. We'll be exploring this floor for a while. Please shout for us if anything happens. Sakura left the nurse's office. How did she destroy Monokuma like this? As Chihiro cautiously stood over Monokuma's remains, Kyoko started searching the room. She zeroed in on one of the beds and began studying it intensely. A moment later, Kyoko was satisfied with what she had found and let out a small sigh before she spoke. Chihiro, let me apologize to you in advance. Huh? I dragged you into this gamble of mine, so if anything happens, run out into the hallway and call for help. What does that mean? But instead of answering Chihiro's question, Kyoko started talking to one of the empty beds. Let me say this first. I'm prepared to hear your story.
Oh.
No matter how ridiculous it may sound, I promise not to decide if it's a lie or the truth until after I've listened to it in its entirety. Chihiro looked confused. She didn't understand what Kyoko meant at all. The ultimate question mark? Lowered her eyes and turned to the ultimate programmer to make a request. Chihiro, does your laptop have a voice recording function? And do you also have a microphone? Huh? Yeah. I want you to use that to record everything we're about to hear. But there's no one here. As Chihiro wondered to herself, she began connecting Monokuma's parts to her laptop and turned on the record function. I'm sure we'll pick up every sound in this room now, said Chihiro nervously. Satisfied, Kyoko nodded and once again started talking to the empty bed. So, what were you going to do if I'd told everyone that I found Makoto? When she heard Kyoto say that, Chihiro looked back at her and was surprised by what she saw. At that moment, the ultimate programmer was kneeling on the floor next to Monokuma's remains. From that position, she was able to see it. Of all the beds in the nurse's office, there was one bed in particular that couldn't be seen from the entrance. Underneath that bed lay a limp Makoto. Those beds they have like nothing covering the bottom.
Right? I really don't get this.
What a terrible hiding place.
And then where is Mukuro?
A blood pack was sitting next to the bed and slowly providing Makoto with a transfusion. The contents of the blood pack were clear. Rather than blood, it seemed to be some kind of saline solution used in emergency hydration. Though it wouldn't be as effective as an actual blood transfusion, it was enough to keep him from going into shock.
Yeah, I'm still mad she didn't get a freaking O type, but whatever.
Though that was the extent of Chihiro's medical knowledge, she was already surprised that Makoto had been in the nurse's office this whole time. Not only that, but Kyoko wasn't talking to the bed that Makoto was under, which sent chills throughout Chihiro's body. However, there was nobody under the bed that Kyoko was facing. But the moment Chihiro noticed that, a voice rang out from underneath it. As soon as everyone's attention was focused on Makoto, I was planning to take advantage of the opportunity to take someone hostage. As Chihiro cautiously lowered her head until it was nearly touching the floor, she was able to make out who was talking. Surprisingly, the person hiding there was clinging to the frame of the bed.
See, like you said, there's no way that would be possible with what we're seeing.
Nope. Like a ninja clinging to the ceiling. Presumably, if someone had glanced under the bed quickly, they wouldn't have noticed anybody was there, because everyone's blind, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Though Chihiro had no idea how the person was able to hide under the bed for so long. She could at least understand that their strength was beyond normal human levels. There was no question that the person hiding under the bed was Mukuro Ikusaba. But you pretended not to notice. Why? Mukuro's voice was cold as ice, but Kyoko didn't even flinch as she responded. Because I wanted to hear your side of the story. I knew you were hiding under that bed. Compared to the others, the frame was slightly more pronounced. Chihiro tried comparing the bed to see if this was true, but she couldn't tell the difference at all. Only Kyoko's natural observations could let her see something like that. Mukuro seemed to come to a similar conclusion and appeared from under the bed without making a noise. Her face was stoic and cold. Compared to the bomb inside Monokuma, Chihiro thought she was even more terrifying. However, Mukuro ignored Chihiro and shifted her gaze at Kyoko. She leaned against the wall and let her arms fall to her sides as she threw out another question. Why do you want to hear what I have to say? Kyoko thought about this simple question for a while, as if she were searching within her own heart for the answer. If I have to provide an answer, it's because I wish to remain neutral. Kyoko quietly looked down. I'm currently missing most of my memories. I don't know who I am or what talent I had to be accepted into this school. She could hear Chihiro gasp behind her, but Kyoko didn't mind and continued. But even so, I believe I should listen to what you have to say. Regardless of whether you're good or evil, I must hear all the facts in order to know the truth. Good and evil don't matter. I'll come to a conclusion based on what I see and hear. I think that's the methodology that's been instilled into me. I see. I completely forgot you are like that, Kyoko. But before I listen to what you have to say, I'd like to ask you one question first. What is it? Mukuro's reply was completely emotionless. Kyoko presented her question as if she were asking it of herself as well. What was my talent that allowed me to attend this academy? The answer to that question was simple. Kyoko, you're the ultimate detective. That answer marked a turning point for both girls. Thank you. I have a better understanding of the situation now. Kyoko slowly raised her head and presented a theory. If my memory loss wasn't just a coincidence, then your group has the ability to erase people's memories. With that in mind, if we take into consideration the situation that unfolded in the gym earlier, I can only come to one possibility. Possibility? Yes. What you said to Byakuya when he thought you were taking Toko hostage. You claimed that they met 2 years ago. It's possible that might actually be true.
Damn, she's good.
Mm-hmm. The fact that Makoto called out Mukuro's name. The thing that Mukuro confirmed and denied. Genocide Jack's outlandish claims. These key factors that Kyoko noticed using her special observation skills were converging in her mind to form one answer. It's possible that Byakuya and Toko's memories were also erased like mine, but I don't think their circumstances are quite the same as mine. But if our memories can be controlled so freely, it calls into question whether the day Monokuma appeared was really the same day we entered the academy. Like you said, it's possible that we've known Toko Fukawa for the last 2 years. What do you mean? Chihiro cried, still working on connecting her laptop to Monokuma's parts. Kyoko continued, speaking to both Chihiro and Mukuro. We thought we were knocked unconscious with sleeping gas the moment we arrived at the school. But it's possible that we were simply made to think that's what happened. For example, we may have already spent the last 2 years at Hope's Peak Academy, and our memories of that time were completely erased.
Got it in one.
Mm-hmm. It's even possible that we weren't even ultimates at all. Just random people who've been implanted with 16 years worth of false memories. That'd be messed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I thought was happening in V3. And who knows, maybe that's still the case, but when we first got the whole, thing with the flashback, like the very first time, I was like, this feels like they're being given ultimates rather than remembering them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, still haven't finished the game, so those in chats do not confirm or deny.
Yes, please.
Though Kyoko's claims sounded ridiculous, her face was completely serious. She looked up at Mukuro once again. Which means I'm considering the possibility that your crazy story is actually the truth. Kyoko's declaration filled the room with silence. But she didn't let the silence overwhelm her. Kyoko cut through it with her own words. Without evidence, all I can do is make hypotheses. That's why I want to hear what you have to say, Mukuro. I have no intention of blindly believing what you're going to say. Or what that self-proclaimed hacker who took over Monokuma said. She paused and lowered her eyes again, then declared with powerful determination. Even so, I intend to come to a conclusion as fairly and objectively as I can. But I can only do that if you trust me and tell me the truth. Kyoko's conviction was clear from her voice. Mukuro's eyes narrowed slightly, and a tapestry of emotions flashed across her face as she looked towards Kyoko. But when she opened her mouth, her expression and voice were completely devoid of emotion. That's right. I completely forgot you were like that. Mukuro repeated this to herself softly, then faced Kyoko and declared, That must be why Junko took care to erase more of your memories compared to the others. Very well. I'll tell you everything. And after Mukuro placed Makoto back onto the bed, she began to mechanically tell a story. The story of a girl who wanted to fill the world with despair. A girl who only felt truly happy when she was filled with despair herself. A plan for despair that began 2 years ago, or perhaps even earlier than that. How the world was currently ruled by despair itself. Mukuro provided a brief summary of everything she knew about the plan. That's why it sounded even more outrageous than Kyoko had expected. And through her story, Kyoko was able to learn the truth about herself. Who she is and why she came to the Academy. The fate of the Academy's real headmaster, Kyoko's father.
Oof.
As she listened to Mukuro's story, Kyoko remained silent the whole time. Her face went blank when she learned her father had died. Perhaps her memory loss and the absurdity of the situation helped lessen the impact somewhat. But there was no guarantee Kyoko would even believe her story. After Mukuro finished speaking, Kyoko stayed silent. With her unrivaled mental prowess, she was able to listen to Mukuro's story without interrupting her or dismissing it as nonsense. Mukuro continued. You don't have to believe me. After all, any picture that could prove my story are with Junko. All I can do is talk. After she said that, Mukuro silently walked towards the entrance to the nurse's office. When she arrived at the door, she spoke again without looking back. But even if you don't believe me, you still listened to everything I had to say, so... Kyoko, Chihiro, thank you. After apologizing in such a strange tone of voice, she turned to the bed where Makoto lay, breathing weakly. Make sure Makoto stays rested. When he wakes up, make sure you give him some sports drinks from the dining hall or supply room to drink. Please.
Oh.
Of course, but... What are you going to do now? Asked Kyoko. Mukuro straightened herself up. Despair. I need to make Junko feel despair. Mukuro continued, mumbling to herself as she opened the door. There's nothing else I can do. No, there is something you can do. Mukuro stopped walking as Kyoko spoke firmly. Regardless of whether Monokuma is really Junko Enoshima or Bishiki Madarai, if you're dealing with him, you won't be able to lay a finger on Makoto. I don't fully trust you, but if you're really concerned for Makoto's life, I'm willing to work with you. Unlike Bishiki, who's probably abandoned him already. Right? I'm sorry. I don't really work well with others. Mukuro looked away, then bowed her head as she left the nurse's office. But, I'll do my best. The doors closed, and Mukuro was gone. I'm sorry for involving you in something so dangerous, Chihiro. I'll apologize to you, but not to Makoto that time I nearly got his skull cracked and told him to suck it up because he was a boy.
I think everybody's so much better in this version.
Right. As she continued to organize the vast amount of information that Mukuro gave her, Kyoko turned to Chihiro, who was still working on Monokuma. As she trembled with fear, Chihiro slowly looked back at Kyoko. Kyoko, about what Mukuro said just now. Chihiro's face turned pale as she struggled with her words, and Kyoko tried to calm her down. We can't determine if anything she told us was true or not. There's no need to be afraid. But Chihiro shook her head and returned to looking at her laptop. I think she's telling the truth. What are you basing that on? Well, it looks like Monokuma is really being controlled from the outside. Part of Monokuma's system had been connected to Chihiro's laptop, and she was analyzing the data within its control system. And it was then the ultimate programmer noticed something unusual about it. This control program, I thought it would be another year before the system became fully operational. Chihiro started trembling so much that she was unable to continue speaking.
Aww.
We can't confirm that, said Kyoko, proposing another possibility to avoid jumping to conclusions. It's possible that a similar program was being developed in secret. But Chihiro adamantly shook her head and said, No, that's not it. It just looks really familiar to me. Kyoko looked over Chihiro's trembling shoulders to peer at the screen, and that's when she noticed. This program. Chihiro, did you create this? All the ultimate programmer could do was nod weakly. Oh.
Interesting.
Mukuro continued moving forward, and was fortunate enough not to encounter Sakura or Mondo. With no interference from anyone, she made her way to a hall as large as the gym, and stood before the sealed main entrance.
Is it bad? Like, I kind of wanted her to encounter Mondo and beat his ass.
That would have been hilarious.
He's like, he's a character that I just can't forgive him for what he did. And he's overall just a total jerk, even if his bromance is cute. It's like, I just can't like him, you know?
Oh, that's fair, that's fair. Yeah. Like, usually when I do think of Mondo, I just think of his bromance with Taku, which was hilarious and adorable.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he would, the fact that he was able to get that worked up over what? Well, I guess there was also the whole thing about the secret of his brother's death coming out as well. Yeah, I don't know. He's a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, Monokuma popped out from the shadows to block her path. Within this hall that resembled a nuclear bomb shelter, replete with all manner of heavy weaponry, Monokuma's silhouette was conspicuously out of place here. His laughter rang throughout the room as he wiggled his body from side to side. What were you doing at the nurse's office? Did you eliminate your rival for Makoto's affections? Or did you help play matchmaker instead? I could never get into Kyoko and Makoto.
I think it's cute, but I do see some issues with it. I actually think if they're going to be together, I think they need a third party to help balance them out better. So sometimes I actually like them with Byakuya, or now I'm thinking them with Mukuro. or with Asahina. The three of them would be kind of cute too.
That would be, you know what? I could get behind that one, because, yeah, I don't know, like, I just... This is gonna sound mean, but I just can't see Kyoko being into Makoto like that. And I don't know why. Like, at first I thought it was because I couldn't see her just, I guess, liking a normal... I don't know. I guess it's not that I don't think it's possible. I think it could work. But it just kind of feels forced, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, the main male protagonist has to get with the main female protagonist.
Yeah. I think it helps if you play, like I have that Danganronpa S, or if you play those, like, after post-game stuff where you get to see more interactions, like, in a non-despair setting. It's
Okay.
interesting because you get to see more of their personality and how they interact. And I
Yeah, I
think
haven't
that
done any of
helps,
those yet.
develop their characters more.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that I'd do like all of them at once I finish V3 since I haven't done them for any of the games.
Yeah, you should, even if you don't do it on camera, just for fun, I think it would really be fun for you and you would enjoy that.
Yeah, because I think once I do all of that, I'm gonna do one of those stream like one of those tier lists listing all
Mm.
the characters that I
Oh,
like.
that should be fun.
And then get like screamed at by everyone who has different opinions.
I mean, the only person you would put in S rank would be would be Sakura and Gonta anyway.
I mean, yeah, like Sakura's just gonna get her own tier. It's Sakura tier at the very top.
Like unholy god tier, like nobody can touch Sakura.
Exactly. Kodaka really just blew his load early, making her the best character in the first game.
She deserves so much better.
Uh, Either way, don't you think it's kind of adorable to put Makoto and Kyoko in that kind of situation together? If this were a suspense film, those two would be the last couple standing.
Wow.
All yours, dear.
Alright. But if this was a horror film, they'd just die anyway. The killer was alive all along. Splat goes the blood. Plop goes the meat. I'm not a fan of gore, so bleh. I'm a huge fan of endings where the characters think they're gonna live, but they're really headed to a final destination. Final Destination reference, yeah. Have you ever seen those movies, by the way?
No, and I never will.
They are interesting and terrifying.
Like there's this one channel I really like called Dead Meat. That's got like this series. Their main series is a kill count where they just kind of count all the deaths in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like as of late, he's done a lot more things where he kind of goes behind the scenes, gives history and a lot of stuff. I really enjoy it, but I've just experienced it through that, and I'm just like, oh god, I could never. I could never.
It's terrifying because then it gets you paranoid because you see
Exactly.
how easily these little chains of events and little accidents can happen.
Yeah. And I remember there was one in particular. Uh, so I have a fear. Fear's probably strong. I'm very discomforted by both elevators and escalators. I will
Mm-hmm.
always take the stairs. And I think the escalator one in particular started years ago when I was a kid. And I watched an episode of Simpsons, which had an Itchy and Scratchy show,
Oof.
where the cat like got his tail got caught in an escalator and then it just ripped his skins and organs off.
Yeah.
So I was always afraid of them for that. And just as I was finally starting to get over that fear, I saw a trailer of one of the Final Destination movies in which an escalator comes apart and this woman's just like hanging on the edge as you see all the machinery down below her. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, thanks. The time to revive that fear.
Yeah, they pretty much kill everybody off in the most horrifying ways possible. But I will say they're better than Saw, because like Saw is just way too much for me. Wait, what the hell is a tenation? What does that even mean? Despite Monokuma's angry complaints, Mukuro remained unperturbed. She continued to stare icy daggers at Monokuma, as if she was waiting for him to finish speaking. Well, anyway, I'm just so sad right now. A regulation-breaking delinquent is disrupting the harmony of this peaceful academy. I can't even keep one of my students from running wild. Time to say goodbye to your incompetent headmaster. I'm gonna use Monokuma Evolution to become a big magnum headmaster and mold you into a decent student.
It's from Kumaru and she took care of the giant ass Monokuma.
Yeah. As soon as he said that, Monokuma extended his claws and waddled toward Mukuro.
Oh, so terrifying waddling.
Right? So if I'm gonna mold you, then I gotta kill you first. Right as he finished speaking, Monokuma suddenly charged at Mukuro like a spiked volleyball. But Mukuro was faster and dodged Monokuma's attack. She jumped back, keeping her distance from Monokuma just in case his claws could extend even longer. Just then, a shadowy figure appeared next to her. Is it Sakura? Tag team battle?
Please.
Mukuro twisted her body to its limits and just narrowly evaded the figure's attack. No!
Aww.
When she landed on the floor, she immediately saw. Boo-hoo! So what does the immortal killer want, anyway?
Oh.
Oh no, that's her, Monokuma talking. So what does the immortal killer want, anyway? Are you gonna tell the others the truth and escape with them? Even though you know what the outside world is like right now? Two Monokumas were speaking to Mukuro in unison. Okay, now yeah, she definitely is gonna need help. Honestly, I don't mind if you do that. I can just imagine the look on everyone's face when they discover the truth. It fills me with such heart-throbbing excitement. The two Monokumas continued to speak in stereo sound. You said you'd destroy my plans, but there's no happy ending waiting for you, no matter which route you take. And you only have yourself to blame for that. Don't tell me you thought they'd be grateful to you. Even if you guys escape here, do you think they'll still forgive you when they get a whiff of that nasty air outside? It smells like poop everywhere. Some of them might prefer to stay in the school, and some of them might resent you for being kind and showing them the truth. But then again, this is all your fault anyway, so it doesn't really matter what they think of you. Oh god, can you guys hear that?
No.
Okay, my stomach is growling.
Oh.
Alright, hang in there, tummy. Monokuma made a little mistake. Despite facing down two Monokumas, Mukuro's expression didn't waver. She understood that controlling two Monokumas simultaneously was a piece of cake for Junko. Mukuro drew an arm-length metal bar from seemingly nowhere and readied herself. Oh, where was that bar, It was the remains of the IV stand from the nurse's office, sharpened into a pointed weapon. With her weapon in hand, Mukuro responded in a cold, mechanical tone. That's fine. I'm already used to that. None of the fear she felt when Monokuma suggested that Makoto would blame her appeared on her face. Her path was clear to her now, and she calmly issued her demand to Monokuma. Junko, open the gates. The shock of such a straightforward demand left both Monokumas momentarily speechless, but soon they replied. Huh? Why? So we can all leave together. Another straightforward answer. Both Monokumas faced each other and began gesturing as if they were whispering to one another. Mukuro knew their movements were intended to mock her. Unmoved, she continued to speak to Junko directly. I think they'll understand if I show them the outside world. And then they'll stop doubting Makoto. You'll always find new ways to disappoint me, Mukuro. Did you forget why the school has an air filtration system? It's true that the air outside is polluted, but I don't think it'll kill us immediately. Besides, it's better than being trapped in the school and forced to kill each other. How can you be so sure the others will go along with you? You know what I mean, right? Before the former headmaster got turned into space dust, he interviewed the others and they all agreed that they wanted to stay in the school. That was before their memories had even been erased. Do you really want to betray their wishes? Mukuro blinked and slowly stepped forward. I don't really care about their feelings.
Huh?
You're all I need, Junko. So don't worry. I'm always watching out for you. Welcome back, Sign.
Welcome back.
I'm going to make sure you feel despair, and I'm going to make Makoto and the others happy. If you want to revel in your own despair that badly, then I'll trust the hope Makoto gave me and take my chances with them instead of you. Mukoto's brief but powerful words caused the Monokumas to turn and talk to each other again.
Oh my! This doesn't look good at all, Monokuma, eh? This child doesn't realize her own hypocrisy. She's so disappointing that she's starting to reach critical mass, right, Monokuma B?
The two Monokumas looked at Mukuro, who seemed ready to destroy them, and said,
What do you think, Monokuma C?
Uh-oh. Mukuro was taken aback by their question, but her instinct suddenly kicked in and she immediately dodged away. At that moment, a third Monokuma, claws extended, passed by where her head had been previously. This new Monokuma unit landed with several spins and faced Mukuro, who had clung to the remains of a surveillance camera still attached to the ceiling.
I agree with you both, A and B.
The three Monokumas lined themselves up. To the students locked inside the academy, this sight would have been akin to a nightmare.
Right on! Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
The three units began speaking in perfect harmony as their 6 eyes looked up at Mukuro. Suddenly, they each jumped away in 3 separate directions and kicked off one of the walls. The path of each unit's triangular attack all converged on a single point, Mukuro, who was still clinging to the ceiling. She was surrounded by razor-sharp claws coming at her from different directions. But this situation wasn't even a nightmare to Mukuro. Compared to the time she fended off 3 assassins who had invaded her camp one night back when she was still a member of Fenrir, this was nothing. This thought crossed Mukuro's mind as she dangled from the ceiling with one hand and thrashed her limbs around like a tornado. Intercepted by this move, the Monokumas fell to the floor with a loud crash. Mukuro landed on the ground and chased after one of them, brandishing her metal bar. Suddenly, she stopped moving and took a huge leap back. One of the Monokumas exploded with a deafening roar. He had detonated the bomb inside of himself in an attempt to take Mukuro down with him. But thanks to her honed battlefield instincts, Mukuro managed to avoid the explosion. She looked toward the hallway, expecting the explosion to have attracted the attention of Sakura and the others. But she didn't hear any footsteps approaching. Monokuma's voice rang from within the dense smoke.
Oh, you don't have to worry. I already told the other students to assemble in the cafeteria. They were eager to follow my orders after I told them I disarmed the poison gas and that a special police unit was coming to get them. I'm pretty sure Kyoko and others are all in the cafeteria by now. I'm sure Makoto's with them too. I doubt Sakura will get too rough with him, but I'm sure Byakuya will torture Makoto once he wakes up.
Oh my.
Binks is like, go on.
What kind of torture? Is it gonna be like Ash in the letter when he was half naked and chained up? That one scene I walked in on in your stream?
Oh, good times, good times.
Yeah, I just looked at it, I was like, what the frick is happening here?
Damn it, why didn't I get this?
Right? But at the same time, I kind of worried. I was like, I don't know if I want to see Ash get tortured, even though he looks hot shirtless. I'm like,
I can just imagine him rubbing salt or pouring soy sauce into his open wounds. Man, I'm getting all hot and bothered right now.
Junko, stop it! You're too much like me. I don't like it.
Wahaha!
As she listened to Monokuma's overlapping voices, Mukuro tilted her head slightly and asked, I'm pretty sure they're going to find out that you lied about that special police unit. Are you really okay with that?
No worries. Once I've dealt with you, I don't care at all if they find out I was lying. Poo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. You still don't get it? You're such a disappointment.
It suddenly dawned on Mukuro. Not the reason why Monokuma didn't care if the students found out he lied, but rather that the voices of the Monokumas in the smoke were gradually increasing in number. Oh boy. As the smoke started to clear, the shadows of 3 Monokumas appeared. The one that exploded couldn't have revived, so a new one must have come to take its place. But there's no way Mukuro only heard 3 Monokumas talking just now. As if to prove her hearing had been accurate, the Monokumas suddenly made their move. The 3 Monokumas bent over and began twirling their upper bodies. From behind them, new Monokumas emerged like after images brought to life. The second row of Monokumas mimicked the earlier ones with only 1 frame of delay, revealing even more Monokumas behind them. Eventually, Mukuro realized that there were 3 rows containing 10 Monokumas each. Oh my god.
Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Did you know this is called a circle dance?
Monokuma's 30 voices spoke in perfect harmony as they divulged information that had nothing to do with the current situation.
As he often does.
Yep. Mukuro already knew that multiple Monokumas were positioned throughout the academy. But only Junko knew how many Monokumas actually existed. Mukuro had no way of knowing if these 30 Monokumas were part of a larger contingent. The flock of two-toned teddy bears continued to twirl around. Mukuro felt like she was being bombarded with hypnotic images. But faced with this abnormal sight, the ultimate soldier remained calm and maintained her focus. Is Monokuma doing a hora? Like the dance, maybe? She was nothing like the girl who had panicked earlier in the gym when Makoto was impaled. As she stood before 30 emissaries of despair, she slowed her breathing and allowed her heart rate to accelerate. It was instinct, not fear or panic, that sent her blood racing throughout her body, speeding up the reaction time of her cells. As her senses sharpened, the Monokumas began speaking to her again.
Don't worry, I'll make sure Makoto doesn't die.
Huh?
As long as everyone lives, I can reset their memories as many times as I want. Poo-hoo-hoo-hoo, that's right. All your effort, hope, dreams, and determination are going right in the garbage heap.
The Monokumas took turns speaking in groups of 10. As if the mastermind controlling the Monokumas wanted to show off her ability to manipulate them. However, the ultimate soldier knew what the true purpose behind all this was. She strained her ears to their limit and noticed a certain sound hidden among the Monokuma's voices. Mukuro's face remained perfectly still as she kicked off the floor. The moment she moved to the side, a roaring sound shook the entrance hall. The ceiling-mounted turrets in front of the gate started raining bullets down on Mukuro. The Monokumas were just the mastermind's decoy while she tried to blow her away. As if further trapping her, the Monokumas charged at Mukuro through the storm of bullets. Mukuro guessed that the mastermind programmed their movements in advance so they wouldn't get hit by a single bullet. She ran for the gates, evading waves of bullets and claws every step of the way. Okay, Sign, I will take a look later. Programming 30 Monokumas and 2 turrets while also predicting Mukuro's escape route. This would be considered impossible for anyone, but Mukuro knew it was possible for Junko. As ultimate despair, she possessed despair-inducing abilities that surpassed the capabilities of any normal human.
Alright.
I mean, they should have just said what we found out later was that she technically, before she became ultimate despair, she was technically like the ultimate analyst.
Yeah, that seems a lot more interesting.
Yeah, they could have just said that she had that ability to, use data or whatever to predict her enemy's movements ahead of time, blah blah blah. Her display of power was only for filling Mukuro with despair. Despair. The scene playing out in front of Mukuro was brimming with despair. The adorably deadly Monokumas laughed and danced like reapers as bullets whizzed through the air. It was despair to the point of absurdity, and it was all for Mukuro. But in the presence of such despair, Mukuro felt a strange serenity. For me? Junko's doing all this? For me? Junko, are you watching me right now? In the end, perhaps Mukuro really was a disappointment. She clenched her fists. Junko, thank you. The sound of gunfire overshadowed her whisper, and Mukuro fell completely silent. As a member of Ultimate Despair, Mukuro's heart was filled with joy. Though she was filled with emotion, her eyes had lost their sparkle. Silence filled the air. Even the gunfire from the turret seemed to stop for a moment. But that was only an illusion to the one controlling Monokuma. Something strong enough to silence the gunfire and avoid being picked up by the sensors spread through the school, with Mukuro at the center. I'll make sure I do this right. With that final thought, she closed her mouth and turned off her emotions. As she ran through the waves of scorching bullets, the air around her began to grow colder. As this coolness spread into her heart, it began to beat in a mechanical fashion. Several seconds later, Mukuro's body and mind melted together and became one with her surroundings. What the hell is this? What?
Mm-mm.
She's supposed to be going like Super Saiyan or something? What the frick? Her temperature now dominated the battlefield. Despair, bullets, and Monokumas filled the area. Mukuro predicted their movements and jumped into the air without any hesitation.
Where's the screaming? She needs to scream to power up.
Right? One of the Monokumas jumped at her, but she avoided his attack, kicked his body, and launched herself in midair. I wonder if the temperature thing is just a really bad translation? I don't know. Like, is it supposed to be aura? You know? Bullets pierced through the space Mukuro was previously occupying, striking the falling Monokuma right through its internal bomb. The impact of the bullets caused it to explode, sending fiery Monokuma parts everywhere. As she rode the blast wave, Mukuro balanced herself in midair as she kicked away 3 Monokumas that leapt after her. She moved so gracefully she was practically flying. In contrast, the Monokumas threw themselves into the path of oncoming bullets, exploding one after the other. Some of them exploded near the main entrance, but their blasts didn't even leave a scratch. With full control over the entrance hall, Mukuro evaded bullets and confirmed that the bombs inside Monokuma weren't enough to destroy the door. But she refused to stop. Mukuro needed to get information on what she must do to escape the academy. She had no desire to kill Junko. Mukuro wanted to fill Junko with despair by instilling hope into the future of Makoto and the other students. That was Mukuro's ultimate goal. Get information. In contrast to her determination, her mouth stayed shut. But this did not mean Mukuro was not currently speaking to Junko. This situation, this battle of death and destruction, was a conversation of sorts for Mukuro. All she knew how to do was fight. She thought she wasn't interested in anything else. She thought she didn't need anything else. All Mukuro needed to be was a sword to fulfill her sister's desire for despair. That purpose alone was the crux of her existence, and she lived her entire life convincing herself that she couldn't do anything else. That's why power was like a language to Mukuro. A battle to the death revealed more about her heart than mere words ever could. Her words were in the wind of savagery that blows across the battlefield, uprooting others who also speak the language of violence. This was true even against her sister. When Junko would berate her sister, Mukuro couldn't talk back. All she could do was cower and apologize profusely. But it's different now. For the first time, Junko was using a language her sister actually recognized. The child of despair who tore the world apart was speaking to her sister with the language of power. Mukuro's heart filled with joy. For that reason, she strengthened her focus on her conversation with Junko, and that emotion began to gradually disappear. On this frigid battlefield, Mukuro continued her heated conversation. Endless rounds of despair fired from the school's turrets. But Mukuro's words intercepted every last violent shot that threatened to shatter her body and mind in half. She quickly realized that the Monokumas hadn't decreased in number at all, no matter how many she kept destroying. Not only that, she noticed that more Monokumas had been joining the fray until there were nearly 50 of them for Mukuro to fight. But Mukuro's resolve wouldn't break so easily. As she continued to wield her power, her heart began to fill with something that was neither hope nor despair. She learned despair from being abandoned by Junko, and she learned hope from her acts of violence. For Mukuro, who had no interest in this world, the small space in front of the gate was a reflection of her life, a representation of her perfect world. This disappointing girl, filled with endless disappointment, who knew of no other way to live, continued her lonely dance. She surrendered herself to the rhythm of despair, which accompanies the music of hope.
Okay, perfect. I want to stop here.
Okay. So hopefully the bookmark will work this time.
So it's F1 to insert bookmark, then we also have to save.
Okay, insert bookmark. Okay. And then return to title and save from there, I guess?
Yes.
Okay. And so we hit finish, return to the main menu and save there?
Yes.
You like to save your changes, yes.
That's what I did. I saved in my epilogue slot.
Okay. Okay, hopefully that'll work.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly... This game will begin from where... Oh, no. Novel... Let me look. Okay, yeah, now the continue is highlighted. Alrighty.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us again for this. This is fun as always, and thank you, Coco, for joining me.
Of course, it's been a little late.
Yes, hopefully we'll finish next time. Man, this is longer than I thought it would be. But it's fun. It's interesting. Okay. Alrighty, guys. I'm gonna go eat. So, until next time, have a great rest of your time zone.
Toodaloo.